Hello and welcome back. My name is Aegis, and today I'm going to be covering my setup and recording process, as well as what it might take for you to start with your very own setup. So let's start by taking a look at my setup. Here's an image of that. So now you might be wondering, what's up with all these special equipment that I've got, like these monitors? Well, that's a simple solution. The monitors are a quality of life add-on. Basically, it just helps me do more. It really, that's all it's there for. I just see more. But the monitors and the mouse, they actually have a reason, and that reason is one word, and it's a very simple word: buttons. Buttons are very helpful when it comes to recording. For example, you can make buttons do things like switching between gameplay with a face or just gameplay. You can even mute yourself. Buttons are the answer to everything. Buttons are your friends when it comes to recording. But what if you don't have millions of dollars to spend on all of this equipment that I've so neatly organized in this list for you? Well, that's simple. Let's take a look at that photo that I put up initially of my setup. Now, let's highlight exactly what you need to start your very basic setup. Yeah, that's right. You basically only need a laptop. Now, why is that? Well, laptops have several features that are very helpful for a very basic setup. And that's because at its core, it's a keyboard, obviously. It's a laptop. It's got a mouse. It with a trackpad. You can do some stuff with that. It's got a microphone. You can talk to it. It will record it if you want it to. It's got a webcam. It can record images for you if that's really what you want. And it's got microphone speakers. You can listen to it. In fact, that you often do, and you're probably listening to it right now if you're watching this video on a laptop. So really, that's all you need. Now, if you wanted to do a little fancier, you can get a very basic mouse if you want to do like gaming, like I do. Uh, I would recommend it, as trackpad's generally not recommended for gaming, but you really don't need it. If you can make do with a trackpad, then good on you, mate. So now let's move on to my recording process. Alright, so just going off of the recording process, my recording process is actually fairly simple. The greater majority of the videos that I record are Minecraft adventure maps. So we can start off by looking for a Minecraft adventure map. It's as simple as that. I generally spend maybe half an hour scrolling through minecraftmaps.com looking for a map that sounds interesting. I usually sit at adventure for a good 15. Then I check parkour for a couple 5 minutes and, just browse around shopping for what sounds interesting at the moment. But really, there's nothing more than that. Once I find a map that sounds interesting, I generally take a look at the actual map before downloading it, like the images, the description, couple of comments, seeing if there's any common bugs that I need to check out or be aware of while playing it. That way, it doesn't become a hassle while recording, so I don't hit any snags with that. Another thing to look at is YouTube the YouTuber clause. Now, this is a clause that most map makers create because, well, they want to be credited for it, and who can blame them? If you make something, of course you want to be credited for it. But they'll also do things like send me the video by posting it in the comments, or uh, just send a link to this map in your description, which I tend to do anyways because, like I said, they created it, they worked hard on making it, they should be credited for it. And if you want to play it, it's a good way to tell your viewers where to get it. Couple people will do like thumbnails built into the map for you. That's a nice add-on. They don't have to do that. For the most part, they don't. I like to make my own. So, actually, that's the next step. Yeah, let's go on and make our own thumbnail. Alright, so you might be wondering, where can I get a software that actually works to make thumbnails? How can I edit an image? What if I don't have any money? Photoshop is very expensive. Well, I've got a very simple solution for that. I prefer it. I like to use it. A couple people don't. I've seen a couple videos on it, but I use a software called GIMP. Now, GIMP is basically a free version of Photoshop, and it runs on Mac, Linux, and Windows. So it's fairly powerful, and you can do quite a bit of it. I've heard there's a bit of a learning curve, but it's the only photo editing software that I've used, so I'm a little biased for it. But it's powerful. It works. Once you figure out what the tools do, It's not too hard. They've got a very big community, and a lot of them will help you out figuring things if you want to spend the time and actually master it. So, with that being said, let's take a look at some thumbnails that I've actually created. Alright, so I've got 3 thumbnails lined up here for us. The first one is being Catachio Laboratories Let the Testing Begin. Now, this one, I took the thumbnail from the spectator position from the adventure map after the adventure map had ended, and I used the color select tool from over here to get a matching yellow orangish color from the lava and the K for Catachio Laboratory because I figured the K would match, and then a bright red to contrast the gray background. Now, if you want to do something a little less fancy, we've got another one over here called Box Factory. Now, this one I thought was kind of fun because I took the brown for box and then factory from these blue pedestals. And I also like to throw in a little joke because they recommend not putting the same words on your thumbnail as you do in the title. So I put move the thing and that other thing. Move it! And that's a joke from The Princess Bride. It's a quote from Vizzini when they're on the boat heading to the Cliffs of Insanity. The actual episode was titled I Was Hired to Push Boxes. So, yeah. Now, if you want to get really fancy, we've got one over here. Now, this is a good example of how powerful GIMP is. This is actually 2 images laid on top of each other and then given a transparency effect so you see slightly a bit of both. Now, a good example is here where you can see my character's skin is bright red with the gray stripes. But you also got a hint like right here, if you can see where my mouse is, right on this outline. Yep, okay, there's my mouse. Yep, Alright, this is the second image. Now, I actually made it more opaque on the second image where we've got the fire. Alright, so you can do things like that where you can merge 2 images and give it a transparency effect. You can tilt text, as you can see over here. You can keep it fairly simple. You can select colors. You can just make your own text. You can resize it, and I actually could crop this if I wanted to. I'm not sure I can now because it's already post created. But yeah, for the most part, that's my thumbnail creation. I like to take a image from the adventure map and then add text to it. Generally, since I do adventure maps, I usually like to put the title of the adventure map on it, and then I will also put generally a joke, if I can, relating to the adventure map. Like for Box Factory, we did move the thing, and the other thing, move it. But that doesn't always work. Like, with Insanity, I just added a bunch of cryptic questions like why am I here, what's going on, and why should we not turn back? Things like that. Just keep the viewers engaged. I found out that it actually works better if you premiere it because then they actually see the bigger image than the tiny image that they normally would see. And you got to remember that most people will probably be viewing it on the phone, so the thumbnail's got to be really good so that it can withstand being compressed. But with that being said, let's go check out editing. Alright, so we're over here in the editor, and we're currently looking at a video that's already been edited. So I generally like to start with a opening title, like an animation, and this is a little one that I made, so we'll take a look at that for a quick second. Alright, so then it just merges into the title, or into the intro of the video. Pretty simple. Not a really great transition, if I'll be honest, but I didn't want to really go with anything fancy. It's the start of the video. The music will fade out about here. I don't really adjust the music length, just let it run. And not a whole lot happened, except if we look over here, it was at this point that my game decided to crash on me, so I ended the video there because, well, what am I going to do? the video crashed on me. So this is actually a separate recording of the video because I logged back onto the adventure map and recorded this outro. Then we've got a little bit of point where I tell the people to subscribe. Most people will recommend that you do that just because, if that's your goal to get subscribers, then you probably want to tell them to subscribe. So then I like to transition out from that to the screen. Thank you for watching. Just because I can allow to queue up for the next videos if I wanted to. I can set it up for that. I don't generally use the same music for the intro and the outro, but I felt like this one, in the map, the circumstances were bizarre enough that I could probably get away with doing so. But yeah, so if you'll give me a moment, I'll queue up some raw footage and we can take a look at that. Alright, so right off the bat, we've already added our title in, our intro, and same transition, just kept it very short, brief, and yeah. So I'm going to come through this, found a couple different things to point out, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. Alright, so this clip here that I've got highlighted, this is what I've created as a time lapse because this section of the map took me a very long time. Now, I'll tell you how to read this timeline. So, this first number here on the far left that you can see, that is the track number, not a actual time. So we're in track 1, as you can see. We're about, if we come over here, we're at about the 23-minute mark. So that's how you'd read that. And let's see, we can take a look at a couple different things here. Because this map took me quite a while to do. As you can see, I actually spent pretty much my whole time in this one area. This good, let's see, where does this part end? Or start? Okay, so it starts about here. So that's about 20 minutes in, and we get all the way out. We finally leave the area here at, let's see, where's that last one? Because this area of the map absolutely was the worst. So if we come take a look at this, we get out of this area in... Alright, so we get out at 151 at 51. Yeah, it took me a good 32 minutes to do this area. So we're definitely not going to go through all of this because that would take us a very long time. But what I'll end up doing is taking some of the closest clips where I came the closest to winning. That way we can shorten it down because no one really wants to sit through me just doing the exact same thing and getting pretty much the exact same result. I was pretty much banging my head against the wall at this point. It was a very difficult section of the map. So let's see. I generally comb through it by doing this just because it's a bit faster. I don't have to really worry about, going through it and listening to the exact thing. But another thing we can do, because if we come over here to edit, this is where we can see a lot of our different transitions, and this will help us out quite a bit because we've got all our different audio transitions, and we can create titles. Titles are great. I'll end up putting a couple different titles in this video that I'm recording right now to create the list from the very first part. You remember that list where I had all those different lists of equipment? Yeah, well, that's basically what these are. And I can move them around, so I can say center reveal, and I can come up to the inspector, and I can go to settings, and I can mess with the position. So we can come over here and we can play it. Sort of. Alright, sample text. And now we can, let's see, position, move sample text. So it can be all the way over here if we wanted to. Now, what's also really nice is we can crop it, dynamic zoom. let's see, if we come over here to actual title, uh, we can change the settings. So let's do, ooh, I like semi-bold. Extra bold? Ooh, light italic. Oh, fancy letters. Bold italic? Extra bold italic. Not so much. Let's go with light italic. Fancy letters. Let's make it a little bit, not that big. No. And we can, let's see. I don't want to do motion blur. But let's make it a very fancy. Let's see. That's a fairly yellowish background, so let's make it a. Yeah, let's make it a blue. I like that, don't you? It doesn't really show up there, so let's change the color a bit. Let's call it. Let's see, purple. Yeah, purple shows up better. I like it. But then we can also change the font. So let's see, where's Comic Sans? Let's see, comic. Maybe I'm just blind. I can't see it. Ooh, chalkboard. I like chalkboard. Let's see. Ooh, chalk duster. Here's Comic Sans. So we got sample text. But yeah, and then of course, you can change that to anything you want. Yeah, so let's see. Titles, video transitions. So we can, ooh, a cross iris. Let's add a cross iris. I'm not sure I actually have done this one before. Interesting. All right, let's try adding a cross iris. Okay. Okay, let's grab our cutter. That's not our cutter. Here's our cutter. So let's cut it right about here, and let's try a diamond iris. So let's skip me and go. I have no idea what that did. Some transitions are a bit hard to see. But let's see. Yeah, that's about it. And of course, the very first step you'd do is you'd come over here, you'd add all this media. So exit screen, the actual video, intro screen. I like liquid time for this map. I find it very fitting. Let's see. Oh, and then if we come over here, DaVinci is a very powerful software, by the way. We can also come over here, and if you notice, we've got a couple different mixers. And if we go all the way to the beginning, actually, here's a tip. It's much easier to go to the beginning in here than it is at Fairlight. So if we come over to Fairlight and we press pause or play, now be careful, there might be a sound warning. It might get really loud while doing this because I'm adjusting the sound. So we'll hit play. Alright. So let's drop this one down. Alright, so here's the music. Let's drop the music down a bit. Let's up this volume. That's about a good height. Oh, hey, I just realized I had the wrong settings turned on. You actually couldn't hear that. So, let me pause that for. Alright, so we're back. So here's what we did. Be a laboratory. Here's what it was. We had some game issues and it didn't allow us to. And we're going to drop that down because it peaked there. And yeah, that's about it. Then, of course, if you come over here to deliver, you can actually select your settings. So I usually do YouTube, name, location. I like to use it as an MP4. And then you add to the render queue. But I'm not actually going to do that because there's still a whole lot more editing to do for this. I actually have to go through the greater video. But like I said, that's about a half hour's worth of work to go through that video and cut out all the best parts. So, but yeah, that's a basic overview of what I do for editing. So let's talk about rendering next. Alright, so rendering. There's not a whole lot to rendering. I select the file that I want to upload, and then I add the title. The default title is the title of the file that you upload. So because I add that title in when I render it initially after editing, I don't really change a whole lot for that. Um, Add a brief description, usually what we're doing for the video, what part of the adventure map, where we left off, what's going on, just to catch people up because it can be a little while in between my uploads. So I just want to do a brief recap in the description. Not sure if anyone actually reads those, but it is there if you want to know what's actually going on. Then I go on to add our custom thumbnail that I created before editing the video after recording it. Let's see, that usually saves it for it. Then I go on to add it to a playlist. I usually create a playlist per adventure map. So in this case, there's an Insanity playlist that you can go check out. But then I also do tags. Tags are usually things like the title of the video, my username, um, the title of the adventure map, adventure maps just in general, Minecraft, just things to supposedly help the YouTube algorithm know what it's related to, so it can recommend it for people who do searches for similar items. But other than that, there's not a whole lot to it. YouTube can take quite a while to upload, so I usually put on like game chops and just listen to music and do other things while uploading. I mean, there really isn't too much more to it besides setting the visibility. But since I want people to see it, I usually set it to public anyways. You can also set it to a premiere, which means you can schedule when it's released and you get to join your viewers and chat. I've done it a couple times. I've had it fail pretty miserably on me in the past just because the one time I selected my time zone and for some reason it thought when I said noon it meant midnight. So it premiered at midnight and no one watched it. So make sure you're in the right time zone if you're going to premiere it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I wanted to do this just, to let you know basically what I do. I think what I do is fairly minimal when it comes to recording and editing. Uh, and like I said at the beginning, you don't need a big fancy setup. You can do this fairly simply. So yeah, if you want to go out and create, my tips for you would be don't be discouraged by how many people watch it. It will pick up eventually. I keep telling myself that. Um, but then like I said, you don't need a big fancy stuff, but also create something you're interested in. If you're not interested in the content you're creating, why should anyone else be? So find something you're passionate about and go make things. And with that being said, keep your fork. The best is yet to come, and I will see you all in the next video.